5 days before his wedding, Marcus Hale abandoned his final client meeting and drove home early, believing fate had handed him a secret gift of time. His heart was light, his mind drifting toward palm trees, warm sand, and the woman who would soon share his last name. The house was quiet when he arrived, too quiet for a Friday afternoon, yet when he opened the door, he nearly dropped his keys in shock. His fiancée, Alina Cross, stood in the entryway dressed as though she were stepping into another life. A sleek crimson dress clung to her body, heels sharp as knives, her makeup flawless yet trembling beneath the surface. The image felt wrong, like a dream distorted by static, and before he could speak, he sensed a heaviness pressing against his chest. Her eyes flickered like a dying candle, and he realized she was terrified not of him, but of something she had already done. The air between them thickened, and in that silent second, Marcus felt the first crack form in the foundation of everything he believed. He smiled out of instinct, brushing her cheek with a kiss and assuming he had forgotten some celebration, some date marked on a calendar he no longer checked. "Give me 10 minutes," he said lightly, already loosening his tie. "Whatever the occasion is, I'll be ready." Her voice, when she answered, trembled like glass about to shatter. "Ready for what?" she asked, and the way she stared past him made his skin crawl. He turned slowly and noticed the overnight bag by the door, half-zipped as though it might flee without her. His stomach twisted. She whispered that she would not be home for the weekend, claiming she needed space to think. When he asked where she was going, she hesitated too long, then muttered something about a hotel. When he pressed again, she finally admitted she would not be alone. The truth hung in the air like smoke, and Marcus felt his pulse roar in his ears as the word he feared most echoed inside his mind. He demanded to know the man's name, and when she tried to hide behind excuses, calling him just a friend and a good listener, Marcus felt the room closing in. He questioned her like a prosecutor, asking whether this mysterious savior was a counselor, a pastor, or some professional with wisdom worth risking their future for. Each question was met with silence, and each silence felt like another nail driven into his heart. He raised his voice, not from anger alone but from disbelief, from the sheer impossibility of what she was suggesting. A weekend in secret with another man days before their vows. When he ordered her to look at him, she finally did, mascara streaking her face like tears carved into stone. She collapsed onto the floor, shaking, and the sight of her like that broke something deep inside him. The house became a battlefield of words and shattered objects. In a surge of fury, Marcus tore a mirror from the wall and hurled it across the room, glass exploding like thunder. Alina jumped, sobbing, admitting she had planned to vanish while he was at work and leave only a note behind. The betrayal stung sharper than any blade. He dragged a notepad and pen from his briefcase and slammed them on the table, ordering her to write that note now. Her hand shook violently as she scribbled, stopping after a single sentence about beginning a new chapter. Marcus stared at the words, stunned by their emptiness, then demanded the truth. She admitted she would have disguised her intentions, framing the affair as something meant to strengthen them. The absurdity of her logic struck him like a slap, and he realized she had built an entire fantasy to justify her actions. When he threatened to cancel the wedding unless she named the man, Alina clung to him, begging him not to destroy their future. Her silence stretched until he opened the door and told her to leave forever unless she spoke. Finally, her voice broke, and she whispered the name Victor Lane, her superior at work, a man old enough to be her father. The confession detonated like a bomb inside Marcus. He demanded to know whether she had already been with him, repeating the question until her head bowed in shame. Her nod crushed him, sending a wave of dizziness through his body. He struggled to breathe, gripping the table as if it were the last solid thing in the world. Every promise, every shared dream, collapsed in that moment. He remembered seeing Victor at company gatherings, always smiling, always married. When Marcus asked about Victor's wife, Alina claimed she knew and understood. The excuses sounded rehearsed, poison dressed as compassion. Marcus accused Victor of deception, of sneaking behind his spouse, back, but Alina defended him like a disciple protecting her idol. The more she spoke, the more Marcus saw how deeply she had been manipulated. She admitted the affair had happened several times, too many to count, each confession slicing deeper into him. His mind reeled as he realized she believed this was all a twisted act of fairness, a way to even the score before marriage. Her reasoning spiraled into madness. She claimed she felt cheated because Marcus had a past before her, convinced by Victor that equality meant matching imagined numbers with real betrayals. Marcus corrected her, revealing that his past was not what she believed, that he had loved only once before and had remained faithful since meeting her. The truth shattered her fabricated narrative, yet she clung to it desperately, as if letting go would mean admitting she had destroyed everything for nothing. He mocked the absurdity, asking if he should now seek out other women to balance the scales. Her horror at the idea only confirmed her hypocrisy. She begged for forgiveness, swearing it was a mistake born of fear, but Marcus saw only selfishness disguised as sacrifice. He told her the wedding was over, that trust once broken could never be rebuilt. Her sobs filled the room, but they no longer moved him. What hurt most was not the betrayal itself, but the fact she never came to him when doubts crept into her heart. She had chosen secrecy, manipulation, and destruction instead of honesty. In that realization, Marcus felt something inside him die, and he understood there was no future left to save. A sudden knock at the door shattered the silence. Alina gasped, whispering that Victor had arrived. Marcus grabbed a bat, ready to confront the man who had poisoned his life, but when he opened the door, two police officers stood instead. They asked Alina if she knew Marissa Lane, Victor's wife. Their eyes exchanged a grim look before revealing that Marissa had shot Victor repeatedly in their home. Alina collapsed in shock. Marcus laughed, a broken, hollow sound, realizing the man who destroyed his world was gone. The officers insisted Alina accompany them for her safety, explaining that Marissa had threatened her life. As she was led away, her scream echoed through the night like a curse. Left alone, Marcus drank until the room spun, then opened Alina's laptop and wrote a message to everyone she knew, exposing the truth. The story spread like wildfire. Reporters called, neighbors whispered, and by morning, his quiet street had become a spectacle. He bagged her belongings and threw them out, changing the locks and posting warnings to keep her away. The scandal consumed the town, and when Victor's widow was arrested days later, Marcus felt nothing but exhaustion. The woman he once loved became a ghost, erased from his life. Years passed. Marcus rebuilt himself, married a woman named Ariana, and became a father. Returning to his hometown for a funeral, he walked the familiar streets with his family, memories lingering like shadows. When his young son collided with a stranger outside a shop, Marcus recognized her instantly. It was Alina. Their eyes met, and the past surged between them like a storm. Ariana stepped forward, protective and fierce, telling Alina to leave them alone. Alina fled, tears streaming, while Marcus held his family close. Alina drifted from town to town like a shadow that could not settle, changing addresses and jobs, never staying long enough to feel safe. People whispered when they recognized her name from old headlines, and doors closed before she could knock twice. Every night she replayed the moment Marcus looked at her with eyes that no longer knew her, that empty stare haunting her dreams like a ghost that refused to leave. She tried to convince herself she had only been confused, only misguided, but deep down she knew she had traded truth for illusion and paid for it with everything she once cherished. The guilt became a second skin, clinging to her even in crowded rooms, suffocating her with memories she could never outrun. Marcus, meanwhile, learned that healing was not forgetting but choosing to move forward even when the scars ached. With Ariana by his side, he discovered a love built on honesty rather than fear, on quiet trust instead of desperate control. He found himself laughing again, something he once believed impossible, and when his children slept in his arms, he understood that his life had not ended, it had been rewritten. Yet sometimes, in the stillness before dawn, he felt the old wound stir, a reminder of how easily hope can be shattered when faith is misplaced. The town slowly forgot Alina, but it never forgave her. Her name became a cautionary tale whispered at gatherings and passed between strangers like a warning etched into stone. She tried to start over under different identities, but the weight of her choices followed her relentlessly. In the quiet moments, when no one was watching, she stared at her reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back. The vibrant dreamer she once was had been replaced by someone hollow, shaped by regret and longing for a life that could never return. Years later, Marcus stood at his son's school play, watching the boy deliver his lines with fearless joy. He felt something loosen inside him, a knot he had carried since that terrible night. The world had not ended, it had only changed direction. He realized he was no longer angry, no longer consumed by the past. The pain remained, but it no longer controlled him. He had learned that betrayal does not define the betrayed, it reveals the strength required to survive it. Alina, on the other hand, lived in a constant state of waiting, for forgiveness that would never come, for a moment when the ache might finally fade. She clung to memories of love like lifelines, even though they only pulled her deeper into sorrow. She wrote letters she never sent, apologies that dissolved in tears, and slowly accepted that some doors, once closed, are sealed forever. Marcus taught his children that honesty is the truest form of love, that secrets rot the heart from within. Each lesson felt like a small victory over the past, a way of transforming pain into purpose. He vowed never to repeat the silence that had once destroyed him, choosing instead to build a life where truth was spoken, even when it was difficult. On quiet nights, Alina sometimes drove past places that reminded her of who she used to be, though she never stopped. The lights blurred through her tears as she whispered Marcus's name, knowing he would never hear her. She wondered if he ever thought of her, if any part of their shared history still lingered in his heart, but she knew the answer already. Time continued its steady march, carrying them both farther from the night that changed everything. One found peace in new beginnings, while the other carried the echo of a choice she could never undo. Their lives, once intertwined, now existed on opposite sides of a story that would never be rewritten. And so, the last week before forever became the moment that ended one dream and gave birth to another. Love had proven fragile, trust even more so, but from the ashes of betrayal rose a truth neither could escape, that every decision shapes a destiny, and some mistakes leave scars no amount of time can erase.